I paid off £12,000 of debt in 11 months, and I want to tell you exactly how I did it and what I learned along the way because it's been a long journey and there's a lot of things I'd like to share. And hopefully, I can inspire other people to start this journey, people that are in a similar situation to me. So, let's just get straight to what I need to say. So, this is my total money makeover. But how did this all start? August last year, I took this picture. This is me in the Rocky Mountains in Colorado. And I don't know, just being in the vast space in nature, it was a very, how can I say, like a natural time. I mean, a lot of the time when I'm back at home, you're busy, you're in the city, there's not really much time to just take a moment and be in your own thoughts. But I had plenty of time on my own here. I wasn't really on my phone other than to take the picture. And I was contemplating a lot of things, but one thing I was contemplating was about money and how it plays a role, like mentally, and obviously that thought of like, there's all these little things that I know I need to pay back. And I was never like super stressed out about it, but I just kind of thought about it and I was like, nah, I kind of want to do something about my situation. So one of my friends, he started telling me to watch Caleb Hammer. So I'd been watching Caleb Hammer for a long time, his kind of videos. Those ones there, it's kind of extreme. It almost makes you feel better about your situation. Um, then I started watching Dave Ramsey, and when I got back from this trip, I actually bought the book, Total Money Makeover, that you see here. And this is what really inspired me to get super into this journey. But the first thing before you get into a journey, right, you have to know what the journey's for. So I had to write out all my debts, right? And to my horror, it added up to this number, £12,165 and 76 pence. This is no joke. We're talking five-figure debt, and at the time I was only 23 years old. So how, you start thinking, how do you even get in that situation? And no, there's no real scandal or tragic story I can tell. This is just slow creep. How can I say lifestyle creep and just lack of financial education from when I was 18 and I had access to credit, right? But I can talk you through it. This was how I started last year in August. So the top three, I run a little non-profit FPL business, so that's just money I owed to my own business, and it's interest free. I had plenty of, in fact, I just spent the money. I just knew I needed to pay it back, so that one wasn't too much of an issue. 0%. I should have put the percentage on this. My Apple Watch, again, for most people that's normal. It's just something I was paying monthly. I think it's like £12 a month to O2 for my Apple Watch. And you get into slightly bigger ones. Monzo Flex, that was, I had a limit of 1.5k, so I was already good. Well, not good, but I'd paid some of it off, and I'd got that a couple years back just before I went on holiday because I hadn't started working yet, and it was meant to just be a stopgap. But then, that's how these things all start. It's meant to be for a short amount of time, and it keeps on going. Barclay card's been split into two, but I bought my car and my car insurance for a whole year on that. So again, it's not a terrible use of money, but through my total money makeover now, I'm very much stepping away from using credit for stuff when you don't need to. Because there's not really anything you need credit for, but we'll get onto that later. That nationwide overdraft, that's one that hopefully a lot of people are familiar with. That 2 grand note overdraft you get for university. Again, it's interest free. So it wasn't really causing me any issues, but I was like, I need to get around to it at some point. And it is a lot of money, 2 grand. Um, and then last but not least, is that Monzo loan. So that was a big one. That was a loan I took out when I was at university. And I was just paying it back monthly, never missed a payment, but it was a pretty hefty interest rate. And I was pretty sure if I paid it back earlier, I could get money off of it. So yeah, there's no like scandal as you can see, but all of those things add up to that 12 grand number. So I had to find out how I was going to change. So I needed a plan. So my plan started with a bit of a prayer, really. and just deciding that I'm gonna stop. 'Cause I usually think I'm a bit of a know-it-all. I usually think I can figure stuff out, but clearly, for the situation I was in, I'm clearly not don't know everything about money yet, or at least maybe I do, but maybe it's the knowledge that's not the important thing. It's actually the temperance, the discipline, the mindset, the awareness of your situation that I needed. So I was like, hey, let's do it. Let me try something radical. So, well, not radical, but radical for me, but just go completely down a set path. As a Christian, I was looking for something that kind of in line with the biblical principles. And when I was doing my own study, I found so much great stuff about money in the Bible. I mean, mainly in Proverbs, there's I say some timeless truths in there, but also some of the other good books I've read. Like just before I started this journey, I read The Richest Man in Babylon. I read Black Girl Finance. I read, of course, Total Money Makeover. I might put a full list later down in the description about all the other ones I read. And I settled on this plan. So the plan was to do the Dave Ramsey baby steps. So Dave Ramsey has 7 steps that will get you to financial freedom, which is the goal, which is this goal I decided I want to be on now. Because I'm not just doing this whole working Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 thing just for no reason. There has to be an end goal, something that I'm working towards. So baby step one is saving up an emergency fund of $1,000. So I converted that to £1,000. And when you're looking at a 12,000 debt and you're thinking now I have to save £1,000, it's not easy. I'll be honest, it's not easy. Um, but I decided I'm gonna stick to the plan. So I was struggling like after you'd paid all the minimum payments for the debts to now save £1,000. I was getting a bit disheartened, and it took a while. But what I actually realized was I already had over £1,000 saved in my lifetime ISA. Because when I started working, I was like, I want to start saving for a house or whatever. So I got a lifetime ISA. But when I was really reflecting on it, there's some harsh truths you have to face. You can't truly save money when you're in debt. That's one of the truths I've come across. You can't really save money when you're in debt because let's say I'm saving money at a great interest rate of 6%. If any of your debts are above 6%, you're losing, right? It's different if the debt is interest free, but in my situation, not all my debt was interest free, so therefore I couldn't outsave my way out of debt. And even there was a penalty on the money that's in the lifetime ISA, really the penalty just kind of takes away the bonus you get. So it's like a 6% charge. So I did it and I took that money out, and that really gave me motivation because now it's like, okay, wow, I've already got baby step one done. Let's get started on baby step two, which is really what I came for. So you can call that a bit of a shortcut, but I do think it's important if you're going to do a plan, follow the plan properly and try not to just take the bits that are convenient for you. Easier said than done, though. So then I had to, if we go back to yeah, to the debts, I had to decide what order I'm going to do this in. So the way it's listed out here is a bit of a giveaway, but I decided to go with the debt snowball method. So there's two kind of common ways of paying off debt or suggested ways. There's the debt snowball, which means do your debt smallest to largest, regardless of interest. And there's that you build momentum. So any money that you would have used on the last debt rolls into the next one and you start to build momentum and it actually becomes really fast. The other one is avalanche, where you pay the highest interest debt first because mathematically that's the best way to pay off debt. But one thing I've realized through the system, listen, I've got a master's degree in engineering. Maths has never been my issue. And the truth is, when it comes to personal finance, it's not really about the maths. It's about the mindset because I know everything about maths. I know it doesn't make sense to pay interest on debt, but look at the situation I was in. So I went with, and once you factor in the human failure of Avalanche, because imagine if I started saying to myself, let me pay off this 5K Monzo loan first, I probably would have got bored after a couple months and just given up, gone back to normal. But because I was seeing that progress every month and getting those small wins, that even paying off that first £25, I was happy. The £40, I was excited. Those small wins, that's what built this momentum and is why I can stand here today saying that I've finished this journey. I've finished it. So that was really the plan. Snowball. But Snowball takes a little bit more. So now this is kind of my little pride and joy it's been for the last 11 months. This has been my tracking template. And the tracking template, sorry, if I just move myself out of the way here. Oh, bit of a rookie with this stuff. So this is my tracking template. And this template has everything. But we can talk through it. On the top left, you'll see this is your payslip. So this is something I will acknowledge when we're thinking about the numbers that we're dealing with. I am very fortunate that I have a good salary, right? And as we'll get on later, I'm also very lucky that I do not have high living costs currently. I don't have any dependents. So, as I said, the principles of this stuff I think applies to everyone, but I am very much aware that I'm in an extremely privileged position to have this much money to work with, right? But don't let that discourage you because I still think most people, especially if you're like my age, you can get out of your debt situation. Might take slightly longer, but you know what? It could even take shorter because you might have less than me and you might even be more determined than I was. But yeah, so you put your pace up in the top left. This is important just to really get to know and understand more about money because throughout this process, I've really understood a lot more about money, and now I can actually explain every single number on my payslip. Back in the day, most people, I'm sure some of you watching right now, you look at your payslip, half the numbers you don't even know what they mean. But yeah, that's kind of how my payslip went. In green, we've got my current accounts. So these are the different ones we're working with, and one of the things that helped me is using different current accounts for different things. So I get paid into that top one, my NatWest account, and that's where my direct debits come out of. So when I get paid, the money left in there is for direct debits and it will be taken away a few days after because I try and put all the payments near payday. Monzo, that is where I was doing my debt repayment to. So if the money's going to Monzo, it's going to pay off debt. And then Chase, that was for my spending. I picked Chase because at the time when I started, you got 1% cashback on all spending, which is pretty 1% discount on everything. I'll take that. And then obviously sometimes I got cash, but I'd quickly move that into usually my Monzo by just taking it to the post office. And I have my savings account. Again, baby step one was done, so that's my emergency fund, and it's picking up interest. It's actually quite fascinating how much interest it can pick up. This is a bit of a confusing line here, this self-employment tax, but don't have to worry about that too much. I can't spend too much time on this thing, but I kind of ended up getting rid of that because I am also self-employed as well as my employment that I got paid from here. And then these are just pennies left in my other savings accounts, but I'm tracking every penny to the penny as it says at the top. My self-employed job is I'm a referee, so refereeing I get paid in cash, and I do my own self-assessment. So basically, what this tax was, I was saving as I was going, but I realized I have until the next year to pay the tax. So essentially, I was like, it makes more sense to pay the debt off now and then pay the tax next because that's not a debt, that's just a bill I have a longer time to pay. The other forms of interest, the further other forms of income were interest, cashback from my various bank accounts, and yeah, cool. Now blue is the regular payments, and as I was saying, I'm a Christian, so I was, you know what? If you'd asked me maybe a couple years ago, I would have been like, you can probably not pay tithe when you're paying your debt, because again, mathematically, why should I pay tithe when I'm in debt? But again, I decided this time around I'm not gonna go down the logical or the mathematically optimal path, but I'll go down the path of what wiser people have figured out before me. So I made a commitment. Now I'm still gonna pay my tithe, and I'm gonna pay tithe on the gross income because I went down a rabbit hole. I probably have to do a whole nother video on this, but I went down a rabbit hole and should I do it on net? Should I do it on gross? Do I pay on this? Do I pay on that? So I think this is a screenshot from October. So at this time I was paying it on everything, including so all the basically 10% of these three green numbers added together. But later on, I found a better way of doing it. Most churches are registered with they're registered charities, and most workplaces, you can pay charities before tax, so you save some tax on that. I ended up doing that later down the line, but anyways, yeah. Building fund, that is actually more tithe, but that was like my tithe from my self-employment. I decided to pay that directly to the building fund that my church was currently doing. Because we're trying to build a toilet. So if you want to help my church build a toilet, please help us. Um, Family contribution. That's my fancy way of saying rent. I don't like saying I pay rent to my family, but like I was saying earlier, I'm in a very privileged position because £500 where I live probably wouldn't happen if I wasn't living with my parents. So I'm very thankful, and I know there's a lot of my peers. You have to move out, live in the cities. It's crazy expensive at the moment. So I do empathize, but I can only share my experience and just apply some of this stuff to what makes sense to you. My phone bill, that's one of my prides. Back in the day, I was paying like £70 for my phone bill a month. Now I think I've even got it down to £13 now. So yeah, that's another one. Don't get into these traps of getting phones on contracts. I'll always be shouting out things like back market or secondhand phones and just getting a SIM only deal. It's the best way to do it. Don't want to be giving away any money to the companies that they don't need it. Self-employed tax already went through that. Road Platinum, that gives me travel insurance, car insurance, and phone insurance through my bank. Setting aside some money for work travel, because that's an essential cost. I have to get to work. Cost me less than I expected that month. And then also a small family fund. All right, cool. Um, the orange, that's that's the motivating bit. So this is where we talk about the debt. So this is October. As you can see, how many debts did I have on that first page? Maybe seven. I'd already knocked off the first three. And I even knocked off the strike through means I finished it that month. So I even knocked off the Barclay card cash, leaving me with only three debts left, but obviously the three biggest ones. So you do the minimum payments and you do what's on top. Then I added this little box to kind of motivate me more. It shows me what I'd paid, how much is left, and how much time left until I'll be done. So this projected I'd be done in May. So I must have slowed down a little bit, or this calculation was a bit off because I'm finishing in July. So it was a couple months off, but that really helped me stay motivated because every time you change a number on this spreadsheet, that number changes. And having that goal, knowing what you're working towards is really psychologically beneficial. And then I guess the fun stuff, this is the purple category. So this is all my non-essential spending. Hey, this month, £165 on eating out. What I've realized, I spend so much money on eating food outside. I'm a hungry guy, but hey, some months have been way better. This month was not a great spending month, but I'm being real. I'm not even going to show you my best month. This is like an average month. I spent £888. Football tickets. Yeah, I'm a big football fan. Not all months are like this, don't worry. Sometimes like you're buying loads in a month, sometimes you're buying none. Petrol for my car, I was clearly doing a lot of driving. I also have to drive for my self-employment job as a ref, but I can claim back the money on that. So yeah, it doesn't work out too badly. Gifts, train. This is a train that's not for work. So me just going to see friends or other business. Gym, had to pay for the gym. The direct debit came out twice that month. That's why it's expensive. Parking at the team I support is expensive. Groceries, I don't really grocery shop. Another benefit of my low living costs. My family do the cooking, my parents. Um, so when I say groceries, that's usually me buying either stuff I'm gonna eat at home or maybe like I don't know. I think stuff when I go to Tesco, I just consider it groceries, even though maybe it could be considered eating out. Trims, even when you're in debt, it's still fine to keep your maintenance there. Probably get trims left off less often than I used to, but yeah, my barber's expensive, but he's good, so you have to pay for what's good, right? Um, Entertainment, kept my entertainment costs low because one thing about when you're in debt, you really have to cut back on certain things. So for me, the big one was entertainment. I used to go to a lot of parties or festivals, a lot of just having time out with my friends. I really had to scale that back. The first month, I remember I scaled it my spending all the way back to £500, but that was maybe a bit too extreme. So this is probably the average, like £700. This is actually quite an expensive month. And then yeah, you can read the other stuff, just normal stuff. But the key thing about this, and I take you now back to the grey box over here, is this is what's called a zero-based template. So every month, I need to get rid of all my money, right? Because there's nothing for me to save. It either needs to go on essentials, which I do first, go on my debt, which I do second, then go on my wants, and then try not to spend all your money on wants. And at the end of the month, it should go back to zero because anything left over goes into debt. And this was the system that got me to where I was going. I also have this blue thing here, which does your projections for the month. You can play around with these splits. So sometimes the once is very low and you have a low, like this, I budgeted so low, 500 top. Sometimes a bit unrealistic. I think what I settled at the end is about 30% of my monthly money should be on once. Because I'm sure you've heard that thing of 50, 30, 20. But I don't have high living costs. Well, I guess I do because I still hit it to 45. So I don't even know what happens when you spend more money on rent. Oh yeah, it's Tithe. Tithe technically shouldn't cost us any, but I I I I adapted this spreadsheet as we went. But I can anyone that wants it, just let me know. I'll give you the a blank version of this adapted spreadsheet, and I can even go through how to fit it to your specific scenario because it's really powerful. So that was the plan, and I just did this. I've just been doing this, or I did this since August last year until July 2025. So I guess now this is the time to talk about the challenges. So what were some of the challenges? As I said, I was trying to cut back on the things I'd say, if I really reflect, kind of got me into this situation. Like wanting to go on a holiday when I couldn't afford it, wanting to go out and then not having even a budget, so just spending money and not really thinking about it. Just putting your short-term gratification ahead of your long-term financial well-being. So I didn't go to any piano events. I didn't go to any clubs. I didn't go to any concerts. And some of my favorite artists were touring. I didn't go to any concerts because that's the stuff I was willing to sacrifice. I'll be honest, I wasn't willing to sacrifice not going to any football. I didn't want to be depressed. But there's everyone can pick the things they're willing to sacrifice to change their life. So I was willing to sacrifice fun for a year. Um, what else? What else was a challenge? So yeah, like seeing there's like group chats. People are sending in events. I'm just like, oh, sorry guys, can't come to that, can't come to that, can't come to that. But I just asked the question. I asked the question myself: Am I willing to sacrifice 1 year to change my whole life? 100%. Because now, not only can I go to those events with a more moderate mindset, but also I'm not. I don't have to pay for it months down the line. Because that's the funny thing about some of these debts I'm paying. Some of these debts I'm paying for a holiday I went to in 2021. It's 2025. How does that make any sense? How can I be paying for something after it's happened? Sa- Save up and then go on holiday rather than go on holiday then pay for it after. But again, I don't want to go. That's a whole other video I could probably do speaking about that. What was another challenge? Another challenge was realizing how expensive some stuff is, and just thinking some months, hey, I don't even know what how this is all gonna work. Especially when you have a car. When you have a car, things can just go wrong whenever you want, whenever you don't know how you're gonna afford it. But then, in the back of your head, you remember you're not in the old situation before. When a problem comes up, you need to think, how are you gonna borrow to pay it off? I have that £1,000 buffer, and some people say £1,000 is not enough, but let's just say this whole time I've been on this debt journey, I haven't had to touch that £1,000. So it's almost like the £1,000 wards away. I don't know if it's a psychological thing, a coincidence, a spiritual thing. It wards away bad things from happening. And the time something did happen in my car, I had the money to deal with it. Um, what other challenges can I think of? I think it's been really challenging, that mind shift, that change of mind. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention. In September, October, November, I was doing 75 hard. So now that makes me even think, how did I spend so much money eating out if I was doing 75 hard? But to be honest, my 75 hard diet was just no fast food. So like, if it was like well cooked food at a restaurant, I was still eating it. Um, but that really helped. Doing a lot more exercise, being outside more. Yeah, but 75 hard deserves its own other video. But that was a challenge. Not spending any money and doing 75 hard. Oh, damn, I was a completely different kind of hustle mode. Um, and maybe one of the other challenges is taking some of these concepts seriously, especially when it comes to lending money to people. In the past, I've been pretty lenient. I've lent money to my friends, lent money to family. But one thing I was reading a lot about in Total Money Makeover and is the dangers behind that and why you shouldn't do it. You should give money to your family. You should. If you're in, and that's why I was so keen to get out. And this is kind of the thing I'm looking forward to now that I'm out of this situation. When you don't have any debt, giving money, it doesn't even, first of all, I've been building that habit whilst I've been in debt, but now that I'm not in debt, it's even easier because it's like, I don't even need probably all this money. So you can give it to people. If you can make someone's life better by giving them money, that is a beautiful thing. But lending people money, that's when it gets a bit sticky. Because if you're expecting it back, it can, it by definition changes the dynamic of any relationship. When you owe someone money, by definition, the dynamic is changed. You can pretend it doesn't, but it does. So being quite strict on that and not lending my friends money, that was definitely a challenge. But I think that's enough challenges for now. Let's go on to the benefits. The benefits um, of doing this Total Money Makeover. I have learned so much, and I feel like I'm now on a path to financial freedom. Like I can actually see it and I can feel it. Like having a modest £1,000, but just even today, having a £1,000 emergency fund, no consumer debt. Every month my paycheck comes. No one's coming to collect money from me. I pay the things I need to do to live, yes, but no one's coming to collect. No, I'm not owing money to anyone any month, and that is a unexplainably better mindset and position to be in than what I was in before. There was a time I wouldn't even like to look at the way I did my spreadsheet. I wouldn't even include the last big debt because I didn't want to think about it. That's how painful it was. But facing my debt up front and tackling it, it's also given me a sense of confidence. Like I did that. I achieved that. through help, through following principles that are thousands of years older than me, but now at least I've got more confidence and I can go into this next stage of saving or working towards financial freedom in a much better way. Another benefit is it's sharpened my eyes. Like when you understand, when you learn more about the, how can I say, the marketplace we are in, or the financial society, I'm trying to find the right words, that we live in, suddenly the things that looked attractive, they're just massive red flags now. So anything buy now, pay later, it's just a massive red flag. Luckily, I didn't buy into that too much. I remember at university, Klarna became this big thing. I did a couple things on Klarna, but I was like, this doesn't make sense. Buy, not buying into that. But in that, I had that in the same form with the Monzo credit card, pay in three, and all these kind of things. You can be much more wary of them because you could even argue, what's so bad about paying in free for a big holiday? Let me know. I'm not going to be the one to tell you that that's horrible, but I can tell you what is wrong. Buying Uber Eats and paying in free, that's crazy. Though that kind of mindset where you can borrow to buy one meal, those are the red flags I want everyone, everyone to completely move away from. And okay, I go back to a challenge. I've been faced with some conflicting points. And what I've realized is I can't give a blanket answer to everyone because of the privileged situation I'm in, as in young person, high earner, no dependents. I'm not in a desperate situation. Like even if I didn't have a job tomorrow, it's not like I'm getting kicked out of my house. I live with my parents. But let's say I'm whittling this message down to people in a similar situation to me. So if you're a young earner with those same criteria, you live with your parent, you have literally no excuse to be borrowing money to buy anything really, in my opinion, except for my house. That's the only one I can think of. If you really dig deep into what can I justify borrowing to borrowing money to buy. It's a house, maybe a car, but even the car market in the UK is the used car market in the UK is so good and accessible. I don't believe that myself that a car is a worthwhile thing to borrow money for either. So yeah, that mind shift change has definitely been a benefit. Um, and hopefully this is a benefit that I can now share my story, my journey with others and hopefully help, even if it's just one person, but hopefully more to jump on this journey too, because I mean, hopefully there's a long life ahead of me and there's a whole long life ahead of you that's watching, but it shouldn't be one that's filled with financial stress. And now I kind of get excited thinking about, the next level stuff. So now that I've conquered debt, hopefully forever, not hopefully forever, consumer debt anyway, let's say it that way, unnecessary consumer debt, we can now start talking about more cool stuff like planning for retirement. I've learned so much about pensions, there's not even time to go into that now. And the power behind pensions, investing, like sensible investing. Definitely not going to turn into a crypto bro, but sensible investing in a way that you don't really have to do much other than buy the index fund and just leave it for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Some of us that follow this system well in our 20s in this such high value decade will accidentally become millionaires in our 50s and 60s. But it's not going to happen without a change of mindset for most people. Because here's a scary thing, and I don't know if this is more suitable for the next slide, just so that, yeah, here's the scary bit. I've just jumped to the lock-in slide. There's a lot of people, if you do not change your financial attitude, your financial behavior today, then you will just have to work for the rest of your life. And Who knows? Maybe that's what you want to do. Maybe you want to work for the rest of your life. I feel like I would want to work for the rest of my life because doing nothing is boring. But I, it, I'll be working because I want to, not because I have to. I could work for minimum wage because I'll just be doing something I like because I've done the setup to be financially free. That's different to having to work every day for the rest of your life so that you can continue to live. And I know that's a bit extreme, but if you follow the line of where I was headed with that kind of behavior I was in last year, or the line of most people that are not saving anywhere near enough, investing at all, spe spending more than they earn every month. I mean, it's difficult. Let me not get into another topic, but I was going to say it's difficult to slide down or slide up or down the social mobility ladder. Let me say that. But with terrible financial habits, you can easily slide down. So, yeah, let's not make it a worse situation for ourselves. So that's why I'm asking people to look in. But you know what? Let me go back. What's next? So, what's next for me? I'm excited. What's next for me is to go on to baby step three because I'm still following the Dave Ramsey steps. Baby step three is to save an emergency fund um, of 3 months of expenses. And to be honest, as you saw there, my expenses are not that high. So with my £1,000 there already plus interest, I'm probably not too far away. And then baby step four is increasing my pension contributions. But I think probably have to clarify this, but because I don't own my house yet, probably gonna have to start working really hard on saving up to buy a house because that is the debt that I don't think I can avoid. Because I don't think I'll be able to save enough money in cash to buy a house. But never say never. Maybe I'll do that. So yeah, I feel like I've done that, and this is what I was always thinking. This is the hardest part, but it's the easiest goal, right? This section, baby step two, has been easy. Every time I get money, I just pay off my debts. I think the next stage will be a bit takes a little. I have to do even more research because if you look online what to invest in, you're going to get a million different opinions. So being able to follow the correct wisdom, the correct guidance, that's really gonna be the exciting part of what's next. And also, I guess this is what's next. Like sharing my story and my experiences. And another disclaimer, this is not financial advice, anything, 'cause I'm not a financial advisor, but I think at least helping people with this first bit, this getting out of debt bit, because I've done it, I should try and help a few people, if not a lot of people, to do that again. So depending on the feedback I get, I'll be more than happy to go through specific individual scenarios of someone or just go into more details on some of the things I mentioned today. But yeah, lock in. I don't even have to go into too much detail, but we're seeing the world's changing, to be honest. Like, cost of living is increasing. People are worried about job security. Unemployment's rising. Um, just, just people are struggling really, and it's really sad to see. But you can definitely help yourself by not keeping yourself in consumer debt because the money that you do get, it's your responsibility to be a good steward of it and make it work for you and not just make a someone else richer. That would be my short version of it anyway. And also maybe on a even more important level, you don't want to be in debt because you want to probably be, if you think similar to me, you want to be the kind of person that's in a position to help those that really need it. Because you can't really help people without money. Let's be real. In this kind of day and age, nothing can get done without money. I'd be happy to see what you can do really to help people without any money. So yeah, it's time to lock in. I did it last year and I don't regret it one bit. Um, I'm gonna go on a debt-free holiday later this year, celebrate, relax, but yeah, it's time to lock in. It's time for you to start your total money makeover. But yeah, thank you for watching this video, listening to me. I've been going on for a long time, but it's been a year in the making. And this is just a introduction really on some of the key points I went through, and I'll probably go into more detail another time, but I just I just felt in convicted to share this and to just encourage you to take this really seriously, because there's no better time to start than now. Because if you start now, your reaching financial freedom will be as close as it can ever be if you start today. So yeah, shout out Dave Ramsey for all the fantastic work him and his company do. Total Money Makeover. I can't recommend. I'm not sponsored, but this book definitely really helped me. I'm even gonna recreate the cover with a pair of scissors and a credit card. Let's see if I can do this. Yeah, let's get rid of our credit cards, guys. Um, but yeah, that is how I was able to get out of £12,000 of debt in 11 months. And I look forward to the rest of my life as I don't know, just work towards financial freedom. It's exciting. I feel like I'm on the right side of the game now. Um, and yeah, thanks for watching.